All right, it is the end of financial year time, and if you are looking to buy property, now could be the best time to take the plunge.
So where are the hot spots at this exact point in time? To find out, we're joined by Domain's Chief Economist, Dr. Andrew Wilson. Good morning to you.
Tom.
Now, I saw something very interesting this week, saying that the next couple of weeks, houses could be going for a lot cheaper than normal.
Well, I don't know. We've certainly got a lot more stock in the market in Sydney. Melbourne's starting to get into that midwinter easing period with the lower numbers of properties for sale. But, of course, we have the big X factor happening on the 1st of July in both New South Wales and Victoria. Significant stamp duty concessions for first home buyers. Will that release a flood of demand? Will that push prices up? Wait and see. I think we will get significantly higher numbers in Victoria and Melbourne. Sydney will certainly get higher numbers, but I'm not sure at the same volume as we will in Melbourne, and that means higher prices.
So the irony of this, though, then, is that trying to help people out by lowering stamp duty is actually just going to increase housing prices.
Will it have that impact?
Well, look, in the short term it will, and the point is that those benefits will only be passed on with higher prices for those that are sort of prenatal in the queue first home buyers over the next couple of years. They'll have to pay higher prices. But the aim is to get more first home buyers into the market, and the government's doing that, and I think they'll get a big tick if that happens, and I think it will.
What about other parts of the country? Obviously every market is so different.
Yes.
Perth's a different story, of course, to other areas. Break it down for us in Queensland, WA, South Australia, those areas.
Perth certainly is a good time to buy now. We had some great unemployment numbers out of Perth during the week from the ABS. Unemployment rate in Western Australia.
Ticking over
and we're starting to see signs that market is finally bottoming out, and vacancy rates are falling and rents are stabilising now. So some early signs that it might be time to get back into the market there. Be a slow journey back to prices growth in Perth, but I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Adelaide's always great value, the most affordable housing market on the mainland, and some real positive signs also in Brisbane now. But first home buyers actually lose a benefit in Brisbane on the 1st of July. They don't get the $20,000 first home owner boost for new properties. It goes back to 15. So we might see a bit of a rush to the market over the next 2 weeks in Brisbane. So I think we're going to have quite active midwinter markets. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that X factor plays out.
So for first home buyers, where's the place you want to be for the next month or so, do you think?
Well, I think Melbourne, and get in early. There's certainly more available stock in that up to $600,000 price range that's established within 20 k's of the CBD. In Sydney, of course, it's a lot more restricted. I think you're looking at units, and established units as the target there. But we're also seeing reduced benefits for investors with changes in Melbourne as well. They no longer get the off-the-plan stamp duty relief that they had. That ends on the 1st of July, so we may see more investors in the market over the next 2 weeks. So it's certainly swings and roundabouts, but I think at the end of the day it will mean higher prices. We have less stock over the winter market, so less supply and more demand, it's higher prices.
We're always hearing talk about, obviously for first home buyers it's tough to break into the market, and for investors questions about whether or not it's too generous. Do you think we will see changes to the setup with negative gearing? Will we see governments actually willing to make that leap?
Well, look, first home buyers typically compete with investors. So if we get more first home buyer activity, we will get fewer investors at the margin. But investors still have a very strong appetite for property, particularly in markets that are growing strongly. And the Melbourne market's growing very strongly at the moment. And the more prices rise, the more that attracts investors. The more prices rise, the more that attracts investors. So those markets still certainly have a lot of heat about them, particularly the Melbourne market going forward. And very strong migration into Melbourne as well is a key demand driver. And strong migration into Sydney is also pushing.
Because Melbourne will be the biggest city in Australia in a decade or two, won't it?
Well, at the current level of growth it will. And this is the problem. I think we may see $1 million median house price in Melbourne sometime next year. So in the short term, get into the market.
Yeah, well, if you can, if you've got the coin to part with, it could be the good advice. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for coming in. All right, up next.